Welcome everyone to this EU Clusters talk on keeping up with the Euroclusters. You might have heard of keeping up with the Kardashians. Well, this is keeping up with the Euroclusters, 30 of them since last year. What are their achievements? What are the lessons learned? We want to get some good yin and yang feedback from some of those Euroclusters around Europe. Let's see, to boost EU industrial strategy. How are they doing? How can we fine tune this? This is the flagship of the single market program. They've launched calls, SMEs are being selected, but it's still a work in progress. We want to get some feedback on how we can do this better as we design the Euroclusters for next year. We're taking stock after 6 months. And this is part of the EU Clusters Talks. This is a bi-weekly event by the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, ECCP, on behalf of DG GROW at the European Commission. My name is Chris Burns, and we've got an agenda here. We'll start with some news, and after the news, we'll do a Slido poll, and then we go to the European Commission on the Eurocluster feedback. We'll have a panel discussion and then funding opportunities at the very end. Keep in mind on the tech tips, your questions via the Q&A button at the bottom, or you can also hit the button at the bottom to raise your hand and actually ask your question verbally. And you be active on the chat. The chat is always good to watch and participate in to exchange ideas. It's kind of like a networking thing during the whole thing. And hashtag EU Clusters Talks for anything that sounds great to cast wider on the social networks, hashtag EU Clusters Talks. And this is being recorded for playback. So let's get started with the news from the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. Nina Hoppmann, team member of the Eurocluster Collaboration Platform. Nina, what's new?
Thanks, Chris, and good morning to everybody. We would like to hear your feedback on the EU Clusters talks. So we have developed a survey for you, looking, of course, for improvements on our activity so that it best suits your needs. And we ask you to fill in the survey, hopefully now before you go on vacation, but until the 1st of August, it is open. The link is in the chat, so you can tell us what you like, what you would like to see improvement, and very important, what kind of topics you would like to discuss. So we will take that into account for setting the calendar from September onwards. Then we also have the next matchmaking events open for registration. There's one in South Africa taking place in Johannesburg on the 24th to the 26th of October. It will take place in the Conference of the Manufacturing Indaba Conference and Exhibition and focus on agri-food, green industries, chemicals and metals, transport, digital and textile. If you're interested in coming, please register until the 12th of July and spread the word to your colleagues if anybody is doing internationalization activities in South Africa. The same goes for the matchmaking event in Singapore, which will take place shortly afterwards on the 30th of October until the 1st of November. We will go to the Singapore Week of Innovation and Technology and the Agri-Food Tech Expo Asia 23. So we will focus on agri-food, healthcare, biomedical tech, digital, smart cities, advanced manufacturing, and green tech. The same deadline to apply, the 12th of July. So if you're interested in this one or a colleague of yours is interested, please register until the 12th of July. There's a publication, I think also quite interesting for many of us, the Data Protection Guide for Small Businesses. It is a guide that provides technical information, especially for SMEs, on how to comply with GDPR. So it covers data protection basics, looking at how to respect individual rights, be compliant, and also how to secure personal data. The guide is accessible online. Just click on the link in the chat so you can have a look at it. And last but not least, there's a very important consultation that is open until the 18th of September, which is the evaluation of the COSME program. So it's a public consultation for stakeholders and SMEs on COSME, which is an EU program for competitiveness of enterprises and small and medium-sized enterprises, which ran from 2014 to 2020. And it, for example, it supported actions like the Enterprise Europe Network and Erasmus for Young Entrepreneurs, several projects in tourism, the IP Help Desk, and projects for cluster internationalization and cluster excellence. So this is also why it's very important to receive feedback from the clusters on this, because the results will help the EC in improve future support programs for SMEs. So if you have a minute, please fill this in. And with that, I give it to you.
Thanks a lot, Nina. Yeah, so feedback. We're really trying to get feedback from everybody. 2 surveys right there in the news to fill out. And we got another one for you on Slido. Let's go to the Slido screen. We want you to answer, if you can, these 3 very simple, easy questions, but it's good to get your feedback on that. Go to slido.com, hashtag Euroclusters. There's the QR code if you want to do that very quickly. Hopefully most of you know how to make that happen. So you go to that, and we got 3 questions. Let's go to the first question. Have you participated in an activity offered by a Eurocluster? Let's take a look. It's great to see lots of people connected on this Eurocluster talk. We have a lot of regular participants, so this does indicate that it goes beyond that there are lots of events, as Nina teases every time we do a cluster talk. And yeah, it looks like most, though there are some people who still have yet to participate in an activity. And so Nina showed you lots of different things you can participate in coming up. There's always something new. All right, so a third of you, wow, could still get involved, more involved. And if yes, in which activity have you participated? And info event, survey, webinar, training session, calls for proposals. Yeah. Yeah, webinars are obviously the easiest thing to get involved in, but yeah, and calls for proposals can be challenging. We hope to make that easier with each of these cluster talks to give you more information on how to do it and which ones to get involved in and what deadlines there are. So it's good to be on these cluster talks to find out about these, more information about these calls. Yep. Okay, that's good to know. And I hope the commission is also looking at this at the same time. Let's go to the next question. As a cluster manager, have you checked the Eurocluster calls to find opportunities for your SME members? Yes, no, not yet, or it's at the top of my to-do list, and I hope not to procrastinate too long. All right. So that looks like most of you have been quite active in checking the calls. That's good. And we're going to get more feedback on that from during this talk from different Euroclusters around Europe. It's quite a good distribution. And great. Okay, that's good to see. Let me get some feedback on that from Valentino Izzo with our first feedback and lessons learned for the Eurocluster initiative. He's coming up. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. We got one more. Sorry about that. In one word, what do you associate with the Euroclusters? In one word. In one word. Yes, let's do, this is going to be a word cloud, I think, right? Cascade, demanding, support opportunities, innovation. So Euroclusters are good for cascade funding, the support, the opportunities, the innovation. That's good to see. And then there are others as well. FSTP. Valentina, what's FSTP? Do you know that?
It's a very technical name to say that cascading call.
Okay.
Stands for
you
financial
could,
support to third parties.
okay, yeah. Sometimes it's I've been in the bubble for more than a decade, but there's still lots of alphabet soup that qui m'échappe.
We like jargon at Commission.
Yeah, that's right. All right. What do you think, Valentino, Program Coordination Manager, as we watch this word cloud? Keep it up on the screen there for a couple more seconds. Program Coordination Manager for SMEA. Well, there's more alphabet soup, right? European Commission, European Innovation Council, and SMEs Executive Agency. That's what ISMEA or ASMEA? How do you say it?
ASMEA.
ASMEA. Okay. So yeah, what do you think of that word cloud? It makes sense.
I like it. I like that the most used keyword is opportunities, because that's what we wish them to be, opportunities for SMEs.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the idea of support too. This is part of what we're doing, I think, during these cluster talks, is showing how you can get support to get the job done. And
innovation, internationalization, we will see during my presentation as well that I will explain why these are the keywords for the cascading calls.
Great. Excellent. Because you launched a survey to the Euroclusters, and you got a few results you can tease us with, right?
Exactly. I will show some of the results. We launched the survey recently on across Euroclusters to gather their feedback on their initial lessons learned. Good. And I will show at the end of the presentation some of these results as a food for thoughts. Okay. Well, let me just hand it off to you, and you got a few slides to show us, and we will listen intently. Yes, many thanks, Chris, and good morning, everybody. So as we've seen, most of you are familiar with Euroclusters, but I will still mention very briefly what Euroclusters are. I remember that we had already a cluster talk session back in March on Euroclusters. So the focus of today's presentation is more on one of the key features of this initiative, which is the cascading calls. So we will see later what are the opportunities for SMEs and also what are the challenges Euroclusters are facing. So next slide. So what the Euroclusters are? These are pan-European partnerships of cluster organizations and other actors of industrial ecosystems. At the moment, we have 30 ongoing of such partnerships, and you see them on the screen, an overview of these projects per ecosystem. You can I invite you to go on the European Cluster Collaboration Platform to check this map out, because it's actually a clickable map, and you can deep dive into each of these projects. Next slide. So what these partnerships do, they help cope with challenges of the European economy by addressing mainly the objective of the renewed industrial policy, so accelerating green and digital transition, and also strengthening the single market resilience. How they do so? They do it by designing and building new collaboration models between actors and facilitating value chain interlinkages along and across different industrial ecosystems, by identifying product innovation to reduce dependency on critical inputs and technologies, by adopting processes and technologies to reinforce transformation into greener and more digital economy, by fostering upskilling and reskilling of the workforce, and also by boosting access to global supply and value chain. Next slide. We see the initiative with few numbers, but I'll be very brief here. We are funding 171 partners spread across 23 different countries and all industrial ecosystems. We are now in month 10 of implementation, because they started on 1st September last year. The total budget is 42 million. And here we go to the key distinctive feature of this initiative, which is the cascading calls for SMEs. So what does it mean? It means that at least 75% of the grant so roughly 32 million, 31.5, must go directly to SMEs via calls that are published by each and every Eurocluster. Next slide. In the period between February and June, the first 32 calls have been published, amounting to roughly 70 million euro, and with the potential to reach 1,500 SMEs. 14 calls are still open and more are there to come. Next slide. What these calls are for, the big bunch of calls you see is for innovation grants, including prototyping, testing, demonstration. But then there are also calls for advisory services to SMEs that they range from market analysis to business plans or resilience plans. Then we have another big group of calls, which is for internationalization support, meaning both travel grants, but also support to activities like matchmaking, so even attendance to fairs, boot costs, etc. And then training costs and other miscellaneous. Next slide. Here are the first results, but these are very preliminary of the 18 calls that just closed. They closed in the past days and weeks. So these are very preliminary results, and it's nice to see that already more than 1,000 SMEs applied to the first 18 closed calls. Next slide. What is more interesting is having a look forward and see what on the 14 calls that are still open today. You'd see that more than 4 million euros are there for SMEs coming from construction, health, digital industries, energy intensive industries, mobility, transport and automotive sectors. And these are also the calls with the highest lump sum per application. It can go up to 180,000 euro per project. Then other interesting opportunities are there for SMEs that wish to internationalize in third countries like Japan, Canada, Mexico, and so on and so forth. You see it on the slide. Next slide. If you want to have a look in depth into each of these open opportunities, I invite you to look at the European Cluster Collaboration Platform. You'll find them also on the EN network and on the Funding and Tender portal. So if you are a cluster organization or an intermediary organization, I really invite you to share this information with your members. If you are an SME, please watch regularly these portals because and stay tuned because there are more opportunities also coming. Next slide. And talking about future opportunities, it will be interesting for the Euroclusters that still plan to launch cascading calls to learn from the initial lessons from this first 32 calls experience, and also to learn from peers. And this is what also our panelists later on will help us with. Here, as you see, I wanted to show you the menu, how rich is the menu of possible choices Euroclusters have when designing a call. And this is also not complete. These are only the coming from the observation we made on the first 32 calls, but there are more possibilities there. So to help you, there is no best choice. Actually, there is maybe the most appropriate choice for a specific objective in a specific case. ESMEA colleagues are there to help you and guide you in this process, a process that is not easy, and this is also demonstrated clearly by the survey we just mentioned, Chris, the survey we've run. So next slide. We asked all Euroclusters what is their experience with these first calls and what are the challenges they found, and for the majority of them this was quite a challenging process. Next slide. The main challenges they are finding is in drafting the call, but especially the call, the documents that are annexed to the call, so like the guide for applicants or the sub-grant agreements, but also lowering the financial risk for them. It's quite difficult, likewise managing the submission and the evaluation step.
Valentino, is there any way that, I mean, seeing that drafting the call can be complicated for people, is there any way to simplify that or to provide more support in helping them draft?
Yes, thanks, Chris. That's a very good question. Drafting the call documents is very difficult because there are financial risks that are there, and in order to protect Euroclusters from this, the process should be thorough. However, we are there to help and support in this. We have at SMEA, this is our core business, drafting calls, and this is where we can advise best. And we also prepared an internal guideline for that has just been drafted based on the first experience, guidelines to support with tips also on what clauses they need to take into consideration when drafting a contract with the SME. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next again. Okay, I will just say a few words on this and the following questions that can go hand in hand. We asked them what would they do differently, and what are the tips for peers. And what is striking here is that they all mentioned evaluation, and in particular evaluation time. So the evaluation process is quite time-consuming and unexpectedly time-consuming, I would say. So the advice is to really plan carefully this process, including briefing for partners and evaluators on the evaluation. Other suggestions would be that came out from the survey would be to use a submission platform in order to monitor potential SMEs and also anticipate the number of applications expected. But also communicate better the calls. And an interesting tip is also to share the calendar of calls among Euroclusters in order to avoid publishing all calls at the same time, which may result in unwanted competition. But also be, and this is also my advice, be as clear and simple as possible. At the same time, this doesn't mean being vague and too general. It's also important to be very detailed and precise in eligibility conditions to avoid problems later on. Next slide. Then here we asked what type of support they could benefit from more from us. Obviously, legal and financial support, templates, assessing whether applicants are SMEs, etc., etc. And this is what we are trying to do. I can contribute more maybe during the panel discussion. Next slide. I have a last slide here before concluding. Is an additional request. Actually, we are now planning with the CCP the calendar of the international matchmaking events to be organized in the years 24-25. It will be very good and beneficial for each of us and also for all Euroclusters to align this calendar of events with the international activities and the plans of Euroclusters, but also with the cascading calls that they plan to launch to support these activities. That's why we created a short survey to gather this feedback. It's very important to hear your voice. I really ask you to participate. You have the QR code here, but also you will have a link in the chat. Thank you very much. That's all from my side. Thank you,
Grazie,
Chris.
Valentino. Yes, we're a lot of reaching out with surveys and trying to tap the information from all of you out there to get more information on how to make this work better. There is a question quickly, Valentino, from Berenice, who says, I've heard that the next call would be slightly different from the first one. Do you have any information about that?
It will certainly be, I would say that it won't be a discontinuation, but certainly it will be slightly different because this is a first this was the first call that we launched, and obviously we also need to learn from the experience of this. So we are carefully assessing your feedback. We are listening to each of you. We are seeing what the challenges are. We had already a cluster talk in March exactly on this, and we are learning from this experience, and we will make some adaptation. That's for sure.
Okay,
and the
great.
call, maybe another thing that most of you are interested to know in knowing is that the next call is should come in the Work Program 24. That's the expectation, at least.
And that would be when, which month?
It will. It's planned to be in the Work Program of 2024, meaning that the plan is to launch it in order to start the new cycle after the end or around the end of this first call. So to call to be launched the end of 24, maybe for a start in mid 25.
Okay, very good. Okay, Valentino, I hope you can hang on, and we will move to our panel debate now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Grazie molto. And our panel debate, how things are going, what lessons learned. We want to hear from all of you, all of the speakers. We have quite a few. Let's do a quick lightning round, kind of speed date lightning round from each one of you, describing what you do. And then we can go into the details after that. Giovanni Scaramuzzo, Program Manager, Exo Ricerca, Crea Thrive, Eurocluster. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Giovanni from Crea Thrive EU. I'm coordinating Crea Thrive EU, one of the two Eurocluster in creative and cultural industry. Crea Thrive EU is a project that involves 5 partners from 5 countries: Basilicata Creativa, which is coordinator, from Italy; Twist Cluster from Belgium; Baltic Film and Createch Cluster from Lithuania; Corallia from Greece; and Inoscar Digital Cluster from Hungary.
Okay, very good. Let's move to Laure de Tassigny, European Project Officer for Minalogic, Silicon Eurocluster.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Morning, bonjour.
Thank you. I'm Laure de Tassigny. I'm working at Minalogic, which is the digital technology clusters for France's Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region, and I'm the coordinator of the Silicon Eurocluster project. Silicon Eurocluster project gathers 10 partners from 9 EU countries. And we address the microelectronics value chain.
Okay, very good. Let's move to Maria Luisa Fernandez, Cluster Manager Zine, Sirkin Water Eurocluster. Is that right?
Yes, it's all right. Good morning. Yeah, Thin Water Eurocluster is Eurocluster boosting water smart solutions to accelerate the triple transition in 2 targeted sectors, the agri-food and the energy-intensive industries. And we are participating clusters from Finland, from the Netherlands, from France, from the Czech Republic, and then also from us, that and the cluster manager of INAE, that is the water efficiency cluster in Aragon, in Spain.
Okay, very good. Gracias. Ruben Eiras, Secretary General, Forum Oceano, Portugal, Blue Econ Cluster, I guess. Tell us about you.
Yes, Blue Economy Cluster.
Blue Economy, yes. Sorry, yeah.
It's early in the morning, no problem. So, good morning, everybody. So, as it was presented, so Forum Oceano is Portugal's Blue Economy Cluster. And so we lead the MED band, so the MED Blue Accelerator Network, which is was born in the West Med Initiative CBAS and from the European Commission, where we also take part on. So what is Medban? So it's a network of clusters from Italy, so Federazione del Mare, Blue Italy Growth, from France, Pôle Mer Méditerranée, and from Spain, Cluster Marítimo Baleares, and Portugal, us for Ocean, which we lead. And our goal is to foster the blue economy, innovation, value chain, and ecosystem in the West Mediterranean region. And that's the main goal of our say Eurocluster.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ruben. And Silvana Sanfeliu, Senior EU Project Specialist for Fondazione Piemonte, Innova.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Silvana Sanfeliu. Yes, I'm based in Italy. We are an innovation agency coordinating 2 clusters actually on technologies and smart communities. And we are the coordinators of the AIBC Euroclusters, which is focused on AI, so artificial intelligence and blockchain, applied to 4 different industrial ecosystems, which are manufacturing, mobility, logistics, and energy. It's a partnership of 6 clusters from 5 different countries. So we, and together with another Italian cluster on energy, the Clever Environment Park cluster. Then we have another ICT cluster from Germany, BWCon in Baden-Württemberg. Then we have the ICT cluster from Bulgaria. And then we go towards Spain with the mobility and logistic cluster of the Basque Country. And finally, the cluster of tools and plastics in Poland. So big.
Yeah, very big. And I mean, for all of you are great examples of how these Euroclusters aim to coordinate the energies across the EU 27. The reach of some of your organizations is amazing. Giovanni, let's start with you. How are things working for you? Any lessons learned in the last 6 months?
So far I saw in the word cloud that word demanding. So managing the Eurocluster has been really demanding so far because you need to get a SME involved, and just without SME the project is completely useless, I would say. And it was challenging, you know, engaging SME, managing the calls, selecting SME in a sector such as creative and cultural industries, which is pretty wide by definition. So it's been a really interesting trip so far.
Okay, and you've worked with, for instance, the Twist cluster from Belgium, and they do. I've looked on their website. They have a really cool show reel on offering their services to other parts of the world, right? Even Francophone Africa.
Yeah.
How is that working? How from a Eurocluster standpoint?
Yeah, we have this cluster that has international strategy, and obviously the call that we launched, that some of their associate SMEs getting the opportunities to implement these strategies. For instance, in the case of Twist, we had applicant SMEs that decided, for instance, to address Africa, which is a very interesting market for French-speaking companies.
Mm-hmm.
And they will use the grant. Some companies will use the grant to go and create a media hub in Africa to make all events related to arts in Africa known in all French-speaking countries. But it's also we had also other examples of these, such as with Baltic Film and Creative Clusters.
Right.
That some companies within the cluster are very interested in Far Eastern countries such as South Korea and Japan, and they will use the grant to collaboratively address those specific country with business mission.
Okay.
So,
Very good. Okay, Giovanni, I want to come back to you. Let's move to Laure de Tassigny over at Mineralogic, the Silicon Eurocluster. Obviously, there's a real urgency here to help make the EU Chips Act happen. How is the Eurocluster contributing to that through what you do?
Yeah, this is a big challenge for Europe, and so the Silicon Eurocluster project is contributing a little bit to this big challenge. And on our side, our open call has just closed on the 31st of May. And we've had quite a lot of applications, about 61 applications from 24 different countries.
Very good.
That's really good. And I can share also the information from my colleagues from other French Euroclusters, because we are part of a French Eurocluster working group. Mm. And they said also that they have had a lot of applications. So we are quite happy about it. And most of the SMEs that apply to our calls are very small SMEs. I mean, most of them are less than 10 employees.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the statistics we've got.
Okay, and in these calls, you know, as we saw kind of in the survey at the beginning of this session, is that sometimes can be complicated to fill out and to figure out. Did you see that as well, or did you help them fill out? You know,
well, yes, we try to have it the most simple applications. We imagine, well, we have the experience of evaluating the proposals, and so, and we have the voice of our SMEs telling us that that it's often very complicated to apply. So we tried really to have a simple way of applying. We did it on a platform called Good Grants, and we set up all the it was quite a hard work of setting the different parts of this application, and we obviously supported our SMEs in applying if they needed, and we also performed 2 webinars explaining what we are expecting, what will be the evaluation criteria, and explaining also all the eligibility criteria.
Yeah, well, you just from the standpoint that you have more than 60 applications, that I think is an indication that you've helped to make it easier, I guess.
Yeah,
that's just my guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's move to Maria Luisa, and yeah, kind of the same thing. You're working in the water business, water, wastewater, and energy among several countries. I mean, up and down the EU, Spain, Netherlands, France, Finland, Czech. How is that working for you? Regarding the open calls, which tools did you use? That's one question we think about.
Yeah, as Laura, we were also closing the innovation lump sum call in the 31st of May. We also get a lot of proposals, 78 proposals, and 100 for SMEs participating. It was possible to present individual or collaborative project. 54 are individual and 24 are collective, collaborative proposals. But I think that I think we also use a submission platform, also the same that Laura mentioned, and this is I think is very useful because help a lot, and we make as simple as possible. But I want to mention that even we even when we think that it is very simple, we identify when we just check this, do a like eligibility check, we check if everything was okay. We see there was some like administrative mistakes that the SMEs.
And you helped them navigate that. Okay.
Yeah, so we have to open like a cure administrative period, like to help them just to do in the right way. So always, even when you think it's simple and that we want to make it easy and that they could be in the competition, not because they make it just an administrative mistake. So always, you have to to answer to these questions. So that this is one of the challenges, things that they are things that you are not foreseen and then appears, and you have to answer to that.
Okay. Ruben, eras SecGen Forum Oceano. How is that working for you? What sort of projects do you finance?
Well, we are also financing internationalization activities and also support to innovation advisory activities. So, and also is in a multi-sectorial approach. So
can you give like a concrete example of one of those?
For example, one project is to helping to define an impact business model and refining the impact business model of a blue biotech company, for example.
Okay.
So the ESG advisory services, so that the companies can be more investment ready in terms for impact investors, or also the search that we had also in the matchmaking area, because blue economy in a certain assertion is still a novelty and is in an emerging sector and a sector of sectors, and it has to be much more promoted in order to be better integrated in the, I would say, value chains. We had for the innovation advisory calls 68 applications, and the internationalization calls we have 32 applications. So we went beyond our KPI of entities that was 65, and now we have 88 in this, how to say, first wave, which is quite motivating for our job.
Motivating. And anything about the process, filling out the applications, tools, anything that you learned in the process?
Everything that is new, you always have on how to. So what we also derived from our experience in filling calls is that we made it as simple as possible. Concerning all the risk factors that are here, of course, in this that we have to weigh in this process. But since it is also, I would say, a sector with sectors that has many specificities, and already there is, I would say, a very proximity between what our members need. We were able to do a process that was, I would say, understandable for the applicants. So we didn't have many operational difficulties in that respect, at least until this stage.
Okay, that's good. I've got questions coming in, so I want to get to them as soon as I can, but let's go before that to Silvana Sanfeliu, Senior EU Project Specialist, Fondazione Piemonte. I see you're specializing in artificial intelligence, blockchain. Those are all pretty hot topics at the moment, and I guess that it's interesting to mobilize SMEs across Europe. You're working in Germany, Bulgaria, Spain, Italy, Poland. Give us an example of a concrete example of a project and and how are you facilitating that through what you do?
Okay, yeah. So in fact, the main purpose, let's say, of our Eurocluster is actually to, support the adoption of these two technologies within different industrial ecosystem, but also to support the companies that are working on the technologies to further develop it, or to find even more, applications from develop a little bit further what they're currently doing. Because as we know, there are new technologies, we're not super new, but yeah, there are new applications and new developments within them.
Sure.
So in fact, in order to support better these, and we have identified challenges and topics that we wanted to approach, because having these applications to 4 different industries, it could be really broad, and because it's better to be focused, and in order to have help the companies also to better know where to tackle, we gathered like between all the clusters, clusters who usually work with SMEs. So we currently are updating what they're working on and what are the needs they have, etc. So based on that, we organize and we launch these challenges in 2 calls. So for instance, one of the macro challenges we're asking to be more complete is AI for optimization of logistics. That is a micro challenge that is both in the service and product development call, but also in the project proposal calls. And it's, of course, tackling logistics and mobility through the implementation of artificial intelligence. And what we have thought there is like to support improving all the transportation operations and, planning new routes, not only at, within the cities, the last mile optimization, but also along path of optimization. So even when transportation companies that go from one country to another, and to better support the planning and also the tackling of potential, rerouting and integration of all the information that is available there in order to provide a better service. So that's kind of one of, let's say, it's one of the topics. It can be done through different kind of implementations and in different stages. It's open right now because our calls are still open. So we haven't had any, let's say, I don't have any numbers to give you, but I invite everyone to come apply.
Okay, very good. Great. Thanks a lot, Silvana. All right, everybody stay connected, please. We got some questions coming in, and this next one, I think actually, Valentino, are you with us?
Yes.
This one from Berenice again, about the evaluation of the applications. Did you organize some selection committees involving professionals from the sector your Eurocluster is connected with? Can you tell us more about your evaluation and selection process? This is actually to the Eurocluster.
Yes, it's not
never mind. Okay, yeah. Who would like to answer that one among the panel? Do you organize some kind of selection committees involving professionals from the sector? How do you evaluate the applications? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Marisa.
In our case, as we have like the calls, the innovation calls, not that they are more big amount of grant. What we are going to do is first internally in the consortium evaluation of all the to see the ones are in the over the threshold, and then we have selected 6 external evaluators, independent evaluators, that they are not for the consortium, just also to validate the evaluation that we are doing. So as we don't have budget just to bring all the evaluation to the evaluators, we do this first work of make ourselves the evaluation, but we want the evaluation of in external expert.
Okay. Anybody else want to add to that? How they do the evaluation of the applications? Anybody?
Yes. Yes, we on Silicon Eurocluster projects, we had an expert evaluator call. So independent evaluators applied to this call, and it's but we don't have any budget to pay them, so it's really they do it for free. We've had about 15 applications and they were all eligible.
Right.
So we use these external experts, but it's not enough to evaluate 61 applications.
A lot.
And we need 3 evaluators per application. So we also included our internal staff of our clusters, but we will not evaluate applications from our countries.
Okay. Yeah. Silvana, I see you nodding. Anything to add on that?
Well, yeah, actually we are kind of similar. Like we are actually evaluating internally because, as Marisa was saying, there's not that much budget on that if we want to, tackle every activity that we have to do. So we're gonna do it internally. And for the project proposal call, that is the one that is, as Marisa was saying, the one that should have more technical parts. We're let's say, evaluate the possibility of having an external evaluator on that, maybe focusing on the specific topics, in order to have the technical part that maybe, because we are also doing it to evaluating from different countries, from the cluster, from each cluster. So in case we are missing one of the competences, in the panel, then we'll have the possibility to.
Okay.
Just only mention that for our external evaluators, we have a small budget, but we plan that they are evaluating between 3 and 7 applications each, and this will be just and a small budget for them, not for these external evaluators.
Okay. Yes, Giovanni, please.
For us, it was the same. We didn't have budget for external evaluators, and probably this is a point, financial constraints for the cluster management organization that should be taken into consideration for the next call, because, just 25% of the total project cost is very little money to manage such a big project. In our case, we did it, the evaluation internally. We received 217 applications, so it was we were not even covering our cost for the evaluator, so we couldn't find any other money for external evaluator. So I think.
Okay, that's interesting. Valentino, any feedback on that? I know you can't make the decision on this, but it's interesting to hear that maybe there wasn't the expectation that there would be so many applications. Maybe that's why.
No, well, okay, it's positive that that there is an interest, such an interest. No, on the budget, obviously we heard loud and clear the message. This is not the first time we heard that the budget is limited for the ambitious work plan the Eurocluster have. So we are taking this into consideration for the future, for sure. Okay. For the applications, my suggestions will be, because I've seen the various calls published, and in several cases the call is not specific enough. So my first tip would be what Silvana also said, to really be focused. I've seen in some calls that I find really good cases, I've seen that there were very specific challenges per ecosystem identified, and the calls were specifically the applications had to really specifically address those challenges, and this helps by reducing the number of applications but improving the quality of the applications, because it frames a bit the context.
Okay. I've got another question. Please send in anything you would like to find out about. Also, comments are welcome. Questions in the Q&A and comments in the chat. This is from Sophie. What was the maximum amount the SME could receive with your calls, and the number of funded projects? Are there any good or bad experiences, do's and don'ts to share about it? Who would like to answer that? Ruben, any ideas on that? The maximum amount an SME could receive and the number of funded projects?
Of course, the more the better.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
Yes, but I think well, it depends a lot on the project that there's. You can't, I would say, compare, for example, an internationalization action with an innovation advisory. Yeah, it's it's different. But I think, for example, in terms of the innovation, when you look at the needs that the SMEs have, especially both in the emergent sectors, but also in more mature sectors where you have to change their business, their mentality for for a more sustainable business model.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting. Well, you can't go beyond the 200K de minimis help, of course, but going to those amounts so that you can have more, I would say, tailor-made and deeper action in the business model transformation of the SMEs, that I think it would be, I'll say, a good progress on that respect.
Okay, and any good, bad experience, do's and don'ts to share? Ruben, any more about that?
Okay,
That's all right.
No, about do's and don'ts. It's still too early from the experience that we are having.
Yeah,
it's still too early to I would say to have certain insights. But from the start, I think the do's is keep it just as my panel colleague said, keep it very focused,
right,
very simple and very clear from the beginning, because it simplifies all the management. And this is also a lesson for also us clusters, improve our internal management capacities, so in order to become more professionalized in the way we deliver our service to our members.
Okay, so Sophie has another question here. What was the success rate for applicants? Does anybody have a statistic or either quantifiably or qualitatively on that?
So, in our case, for instance, from this innovation lump sum call, that the maximum that the SMEs could apply is 60,000 euros. And then in the total, the 78 proposals are requesting more than 5 million euros. And then we have, so they are applying, so our budget for this call is 850,000 euros. So I think we have more applications, 5 times more than the amount of money that we can grant.
Okay.
So this just to have an idea.
Anybody else among the panelists, among the speakers, about success rate?
Yeah, on the Silicon Eurocluster projects, so we had 61 applications eligible, and we plan to fund 12 projects. 12 projects with a consortium of 2 SMEs in each project. So it's about a success rate of about 20%.
20%, yeah, right.
And to answer the previous questions about the maximum amount, on our projects, it's innovation demonstration projects. We will give 80,000 euros maximum per project and 60,000 euros maximum per SME.
Okay, all right. Valentino, in your survey, do you have anything on that, on success rate?
Yes, we had a question on the results and number of applications, but I mean, from a first look at the data, the situation is really varied in the sense that that there have been applications of there have been calls with 20 applicants and calls with more than 200 applicants. So that's not uniform, I would say.
Okay.
In general, at least based on the experience with our codes, in order to have quality proposals, it's good to target at least 3 times more applications than the number of projects to be funded.
Okay. Another question to you from Thibault. Question to you, Valentino. Do you foresee links in the future between European Digital Innovation Hub activities, that's DG Connect, and future innovation support activities around the Euroclusters?
It's difficult question because I mean, if we talk about Euroclusters, obviously these are call for proposals, so it's up to, I mean, it's a bottom-up approach, and we certainly expect and wish to have synergies with digital innovation hubs. In terms of cluster actions in general, we do have strong ties with between the ECCP, for example, EN and the digital innovation hubs.
Okay.
Some are partners of the EN network and also profiled on the CCP, so we do collaborate quite closely.
Okay. Giovanni, I want to come back to you because the other day we talked about this, that you had, different SMEs that were doing different things but in the same region, like some wanted to work in Asia, some wanted to work in Africa, Francophone Africa, for instance. And it was almost like they were competing amongst each other, whereas you were trying to push co-opetition as opposed to competition. Can you explain that?
Yeah, with the call, we gave SMEs the maximum freedom to do whatever they wanted, especially in the field of internationalization. And sometimes, companies are not, for small companies, they are not aware about possibilities in the market. So cluster organizations have been pushing this co-petition idea that you can compete for but since we are our ecosystem, creative and cultural industry, but probably European Union in general is made of very small companies. It's better to find a way to have them operate internally and compete in the global market. And this is something that was promoted within the call, as I said in those 2 examples from Belgium and Lithuania are crystal clear.
Yeah.
The idea of competition.
Right. So is any other speakers have that experience as well in trying to coordinate among SMEs on different projects? Nobody else? Okay. All right. Another question that that I have is what are some interesting countries for matchmaking events? Because we want to do more matchmaking events. Does anybody have some ideas on what are the best countries for matchmaking events? Those are those in-person events that that Nina was talking about. Any ideas on that?
Of course, Portugal.
Of course, Lisboa. Yeah, it's no brainer. And why? Beyond the sun.
Well, why? Not only because of the good food, weather, and also whatsoever good facilities that are available. Also, and it's easy to get here. It's good airports. So so it's in Southern Europe, but easy to get, and it's Lisbon. So it's that's it.
Okay, very good. Let's see. I'm told there's a raised hand by Mikhail. Can we let Mikhail in? Mikhail, how are you? Mikhail Karafi. Tell us who you are. If you can turn your mic on. Mikhail Karafilis. Can you turn your mic on? Okay, as we're waiting for him to come on. Oh, we lost him again. All right. I have a question here. A match from Radovan. Matchmaking event for catching up countries as SK, I guess it's Slovakia, right? Certainly is. It might be of help to release some
terms of reference
for organizing terms of reference. Yeah, for organizing such an event for ECCP. I guess it's more like a suggestion from Radovan. Any feedback, Valentino?
I'm not sure about the question. Maybe the idea is to collaborate with ECCP in the organization of such an international matchmaking event. We invite you to contact if you answer the survey I showed before. You can put your contact details and we will contact you in case there is an opportunity to collaborate, and all the details will follow.
Okay, very good. And there's a question from Gus or Goose. Physical EU matchmaking events for SMEs are challenging. The value proposition needs to be very solid to convince SMEs to travel around Europe. Any comment on that? Yes, Marisa.
Well, I was going to mention that for the matchmaking, for instance, in our case, the internationalization activities are going to be in the Canada and USA, that we will do it in the next year. No? So, and we will have also support for the SMEs to participate in the we want to organize meet the buyer events there.
Well, what maybe, how do you sell that to SMEs that you're in contact with? Why should they be involved in a matchmaking thing on the other side of the planet?
Yeah, it's I agree with the question that sometimes it's not so easy just to always, at least in our cluster, we have really always very active SMEs that really want to be abroad, and they have this more spirit to go to another countries. No? So maybe always are the same SMEs, but you can, I think, has to be something just inside them that they really want to go abroad, and then this can help them, but it's something that you cannot force.
Yeah,
it's
that's
something
true.
that it depends on the SMEs.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Anybody else among the speakers about selling a matchmaking event? I mean, you have a personal story? Oh, yes, go ahead, Valentino, please.
No, I also wanted to say that maybe, well, at least what we try to do with our matchmaking events, ACCP matchmaking events, is to combine them with big trade fairs. So the point is to make the mission more attractive for SMEs, more cost efficient and cost effective for them. Because obviously the benefits are there and are clear. And a small Italian SME will certainly benefit from expanding its market to the US and finding local partners in US, for example. This is quite clear as a selling point, but obviously they need to merge within and combine within the mission as many collaboration opportunities as possible.
Now, what come to mind personally would be, well, why not just do most matchmaking online like this? We did it during COVID. I don't know, Silvana, what do you think?
Well, then I think we're kind of tired of doing everything online. And of
okay.
course, there are some countries, you know, when you go to another country, then you have to be aware of the culture and everything. And at the end, if you meet another person in person, you can even read more, you know, how they present, feel the conversation, get to a little bit know, you know, if they try to escape, try to find the way, okay, keep them interested, while online is not possible. And at the end, I think it shows too, like if you want to start a business or just collaboration or something, it usually makes, if it's someone new, it makes more sense to be there. So in fact, I agree. And something that I was thinking about on this is, I think something that we should consider when we're organizing matchmaking abroad is not only because we only think it to organize it once, but a lot of time, you know, you first go to a country, you meet potential partners, but as we're talking, I think most of time, if you don't find there a specific collaboration and you know already have set things up, maybe you also need further contacts. So I know that the idea is to support the companies in the first, you know, approach, but also maybe considering having like second time matchmaking or something like that with companies that have already more contact and more developed things could be something to explore, because I think at least that we heard from the companies we've been involved with previously in a lot of Go International, Cosmic projects, etc. And the companies is like, okay, yeah, we went, this, that, but keeping the time, keeping the contact, and not having the time, also the effort of companies, and maybe mainly because they're really small and micro companies. So maybe not having the organization to do so, or sometimes the, you know, even the financial contribution, it could be thought about doing maybe too much, like one matchmaking and then a follow-up mission some place afterwards.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. There has to be follow-up on these things. Yeah, Goose adding, even if you give travel support to SMEs, it stays a challenge to get them to international events. And yeah, there has to be a payoff for that kind of thing. All right, I think we got to wrap this up. It was really good to get lots of feedback on this. Giovanni, Loch, Marisa, Ruben, Silvana, thank you so much for being with us. That was really great. And let's see how things progress on the calls and on also on the matchmaking. Valentino, thank you so much as well. And any final word from you?
No, not again, maybe the tip is to be simple, clear, focused, and contact your project advisor in SMEA, because they can really help with facilitating this job. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're there to help. Thank you as well. Let's then move on to Nina Hoffman. Back to Nina at the Eurocluster collaboration platform. Nina, what funding opportunities can you tell us about right now?
Many thanks, and happy to hear about all the activities. Good luck with the rest of the activities to the Euroclusters. We'd like to share with you that there are funding opportunities available. One is the Innovative Transform support for SME sustainability transition. This is financial support to projects to support the objectives of the European Green Deal and the EU SME strategy for a sustainable and digital Europe, to increase resilience of SMEs by fostering technological and social innovation, increase competitive sustainability for SMEs, with, of course, the objective to have stronger innovation support ecosystems for the twin transition. This is a call that also consists in advisory services and then providing the FSTP, financial support to third parties. And this call will open on the 19th of September. It's a Horizon Coordination and Support Action. You have the topic ID in the screen and the link in the chat. Another call that is open is accelerating uptake through open proposals for advanced SME innovation. These are projects to develop a mature technological solution addressing EU security policy priorities, to facilitate access to cybersecurity market for small and medium innovators, and to improve the cooperation between public buyers and small supply market actors to create stronger partnerships between the SMEs and technology actors. The opening date is tomorrow, the 29th of June. It's a Horizon Innovation Action with the topic ID in the screen and the link in the chat. Also very interesting for clusters is this call implementing co-funded action plans for connected regional innovation valleys. The aim of this call is to create connected regional innovation valleys, as the title says, across the EU. So also involving regions with lower innovation performance. And the aim is to build regional strength on strategic areas. It can be a thematic or technological area, including deep tech, that are critical for the EU value chains. This call funds regional or national innovation authorities, but stakeholders such as clusters can be in the consortia as associated partners and contribute and become part of this regional innovation valley. Deadline for this call is the 17th of October. You see again here the details of the call ID and the link in the chat. And of course, the reminder for the opportunities for SMEs that the Euroclusters are giving in the different calls. We have calls on internationalization, on training, on innovation, everything that was presented today. There is a list that you see here in the screen of calls that are still open from the different Euroclusters. And if you want to have a look, please go to clustercollaboration.eu/open-calls to have a deep dive into all of these calls that are currently still published by many of the different from the 30 Euroclusters that are active. And with that, for the final words, Chris.
Okay, great, Nina. And of course, a reminder that, from the news part that you talked about with those 2 surveys to keep in mind for anyone who can quickly find the time and fill those out, that would be really useful for the Euroclusters to see how we can work better. Okay, thanks very much for everything. Register for the next talks. We got one more coming up before the summer break, and then we'll be back in September, of course. And register for the Cluster Collaboration Platform. Be sure to do that as well. Stay connected. It's great to exchange ideas on how to make this work. And of course, the EU Clusters Talk is a bi-weekly event by the European Cluster Collaboration Platform, ECCP, on behalf of DG GROW at the European Commission. Hashtag EU Clusters Talks. You can see at the bottom there of the screen for any kind of tweeting or social networking. It would be great to get your feedback that way as well. And this is recorded for playback. If you missed any part of this, you can go back and listen and watch. I'm Chris Burns. Thanks very much. See you next time.